slides here. All right. So guys, I want to officially welcome you to tonight's webinar. This promises to be some fairly exciting content for you, and my hope is that by the time we get to the end of the webinar, you're going to know a lot more than you do currently now about building scalable online business models. So the title, as you know, is the business model that took me from making $700 a month to $314,900 a month in less than 18 months. Whenever you see a title like that, I mean, I was almost reluctant to call it that because let's face it, being in this niche, we see big kind of income claims like that all the time, and we don't know whether to believe them or not. But this actually did happen to me. Around mid-2011, that's what my business was doing, about $700 per month. Now, to be honest with you, prior to that, I'd had a couple of months where I did maybe a few thousand, but about midway through 2011, that's what I was doing. And within 18 months, it just took off like crazy. And what I want to do tonight is I want to show you exactly what happened to do that. What I've done here, before we get started, I just want to show you this so you can see the growth with your own two eyes. These are actually real numbers. You can see July 2011 wasn't exactly doing a whole lot. This is total revenue for the business. And then we went to October 2011. I had my first semi-big month, and at the time I think that was about $20,000 or something like that. I remember getting very excited by that because I'd never made that kind of money in my life before. November we went down a little bit, but then December 2011, I remember that month very clearly, $45,000 in revenue. And I remember doing the math in my head and thinking that, hey, if I can keep this up, that would be about a little bit over $500,000 per year. So that's kind of when it hit me, and I started to see the potential of what this business model could do. From there, it just kept going up. January, 81,000. March went up to 120 or something like that. May it was 150, and so on. We had a couple of months, June, July, where it went down. I got a little bit distracted and took my eye off the ball. But and then it kept on going up. Most recently, December 2012, we actually cleared a little bit over $400,000. So the reason why I show you this is really just to sell you on this idea that it is possible. Wherever you are right now, you might be just getting into this industry, or you might have been doing this for a year or possibly more. And maybe for whatever reason, you're still not getting the results you want. Okay, maybe you're putting in a lot of time. You've got friends and family who think this whole online business idea is crazy and that it doesn't work. And maybe even in the back of your mind, you're even starting to question, is this possible? Can I, am I going to spend the next few years of my life just getting the same results? It doesn't have to be that way. And if you will make just a few small changes in the way you think, and also, most importantly, the business model that you use, you can change your life. You can change everything fairly quickly. Now, a little disclaimer, I'm not going to tell you that this is easy and that just by attending this webinar tonight, a few months from now, you're going to be doing hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, because most likely you won't. I work incredibly hard to run my business and to build it, and it's been insanely hard work. And most people, even though they might want the revenue that I have in my life, they probably wouldn't want the workload that goes with it. So just to be completely upfront with you. But not everyone wants that. Maybe you would be happy with a fraction of that. Maybe you'd be happy with $10,000 or $50,000 a month. And if that's the case, making $10,000 or $20,000 a month, once you know how, and once you've seen this, what I'm about to show you, it's not really that hard in comparison to doing hundreds of thousands per month. So, if that's what you want and you don't want to have to work that hard to get it, you're in luck. I can show you how to do that, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, What am I going to be sharing with you? A few things. So over the next 90 minutes, which can be very important to your future, depending on how well you listen and watch what I show you, I'm going to show you, number one, some really common misconceptions about what it takes to make money in this business. There's one main one that I didn't really get until 2011. I started in 2008, so I spent maybe 2 or 3 years, a good 3 years really, just focusing on all the wrong things and not knowing what was important and what wasn't. So hopefully I'm going to clear that up for you and show you what really is important. There's four really main leverage points that once I implemented into my business, that's when it really started to take off. So I'm going to show you what they are, step by step, what exactly happened to have this rapid sudden growth, how the numbers break down. If you've ever wondered to yourself, what would it look like? What would it look like to actually have $1 million coming in per year? How many ebooks would I be selling, or how many coaching programs would I be selling? What kind of price points? I'm going to show you exactly what it does look like based on my own business, based on real numbers. And I think once you see that, that's a real eye-opener. At least it was for me, where at least half of my monthly income comes in. Okay, there's one thing that I do in my business that has become very, very important over the last year, and it's where most of my income is made from this one channel. Very, very few online marketers are using this channel, and I'm going to show you what it is. Okay, because just trust me, once you start using it, it becomes much easier to get, especially to get higher ticket sales, $2,000 and above. I also want to show you our plans to scale to a $20 million company by the end of 2013. Okay, I've had this goal for about, I'd say, a good year. I've had this goal in my mind. I'm going to show you how we plan on doing it, and also, if you want, how you can possibly share in those earnings. So, before we get started, one little, let's call this almost a bribe. I want you to stay on until the very end of this webinar. And I know that wherever you are right now, you're there sitting in front of your computer, you've probably got a few distractions around you. Maybe the TV's on, or kids, or maybe it's late. I'm going to really encourage you to stay on until the very end, because I don't want you to miss anything. And if you do stay on until the very end, I'm also going to reward you for that. I'm going to give you a free gift. This was a talk that I did at a $2,000 event where I spoke about traffic. I spoke about the fundamentals of traffic that just about everyone misses. And once you see this, out of all the talks that I've done, all the videos I've got online, and I've got many, I think this one gets the best feedback out of all of them. Okay, so I'm going to give this to you for free at the end of this webinar. I'll tell you where you can go to download it instantly, no strings attached. Alright, so let's get started. Actually, before we begin, if you can, just block out all the distractions. You might have Facebook open in another tab, or Gmail. Turn all of that off and just focus on my words for the next 90 minutes. Shut the door. If you can, if you have other people in the house, just maybe mention to them, I need to focus on this for the next 90 minutes. Because if you don't focus, if you get distracted and you're only, half listening, you're going to miss something. Okay, and there's certain one-liners where once you hear them, you can have like an epiphany. Okay, and you do not want to miss those. So I want you to just focus on this for the next 90 minutes. So this is what I call the elephant in the room. Here we all are. We're in this industry. We're all looking to make money online, and this is something that you just don't really hear too many people discuss freely. Okay, but everyone knows in the back of their mind that something's not quite right. Okay, and that is that most of us in this industry aren't exactly making money. Okay, most people in this industry aren't making much money at all. Okay, they're putting a lot of time into this, they're spending money, but they're not really getting much in return. And the failure rate, it's quite high. It's literally like 97%. Okay, that might, hopefully that doesn't alarm you too much, truthfully, guys, part of the reason why it's so high is most people aren't that serious. Okay, most people aren't that serious. So if you are serious about this, then you don't have to be in the 97%. But that is the truth. Okay, a lot of people who get started in this industry don't make it. And why is that? Okay, why is it that so few people actually end up doing well? And the truth is, this industry, we love to overcomplicate everything. We love to make it more complex than it really is. And why is that? It's because when you're selling solutions, when you're selling courses and so on, really, sometimes it can make it easier to sell if you overcomplicate it. So if you tell people that, look, you need to learn mobile apps. Okay, that's a big one right now. You need to know about mobile apps, and if you don't get your own mobile app, you're going to be left behind. Okay, everyone else is going to overtake you. So now you need to go and learn about mobile apps. 6 months from now, it's going to be something else. Okay, there's always something new that you have to learn, and there's always, if you don't learn this, you're going to get left behind. And that's how this industry continues to really sell in a lot of the cases. So they're always telling you that, hey, you've got to go and learn this, you've got to stop doing that. They overcomplicate everything. Okay, so you have the person who just gets started, or they don't really know what they're doing, and they don't really know who to follow, or what information is important and true, and what information is something that they should probably be ignoring. And really, at the end of the day, all of this just boils down to two things. Okay, and if you can do these two things, you can make quite a lot of money and you can have a very successful business. Number one, okay, this is the fundamental equation to making money online, to making sales. That is traffic plus conversions equals sales. If you have traffic, people coming to your site and seeing your offer, and your offer converts, okay, in other words, it's able to persuade them to pull out that credit card, type in their digits, and send you some digital dollars, now you have sales, okay? Now, traffic, as you will soon see, does not just suddenly show up to your site for free, though. You have to go and pay for it. One way or another, you're going to pay for it. Now, if you're spending too much on traffic, and it's more than sales, you're losing money. So, your sales, that money coming in, must exceed what you spend on your ads. Now, as long as you can get those two things, then you can build a very profitable business and you can scale up very quickly. Okay, so traffic, like I said, it's really just getting people to your site, getting clicks, people click on your ads. You know those little Facebook ads on the side? Let's say that you had some of those ads. People click on them when they're on Facebook and now they're in front of your website. That's traffic. That's all I mean by traffic. We need to be able to get traffic. Now, you might be thinking, well, a lot of people think this, they think, well, you said that you can't get free traffic. That's not true, because I know how to get free traffic, or I know people who get free traffic all day long. No, they tell you they get free traffic, but it's not really free. Okay, it's not really free. Here's why. SEO, for example, everyone likes to call SEO free traffic. So you hear that term tossed around. They say, oh, I'm not going to do that paid traffic stuff. I'm just going to focus on free traffic strategies until I'm generating enough revenue. Then I'll go and do the paid traffic. That's a complete misunderstanding of really how it works. See, if you want to do something like SEO, it doesn't magically happen by itself, right? You're investing your time into doing that. Let's say that you decide to write 2 articles every single day, or you decide to write articles for 2 hours a day. You're trying to get all of these links, okay, in your articles, linking back to your site to try and get some SEO traffic. Now the problem with that is, you're going to be doing that. Let's say you do that for the next 3 months. You put in 2 hours a day. And I would do things like this all the time when I got started in 2008, 2009. I'd set myself a challenge and I'd say, today I'm going to write 10 articles. And I would sit down and for hours straight I would type out these articles. And I would do that for like a week, and then I'd get pretty frustrated with it because I could see literally no results whatsoever. But let's say that you were to stick at that for 3 months. Now you've invested a total of 180 hours of your life. But is your time really free, right? Is your time really free? No, there's an opportunity cost that comes with it. Those 2 hours a day, or those 180 hours, could be invested in doing something else. Let's say that you got a job in your local area and it was paying you something like $15 per hour. Well, no, and it's not much, but let's say that's what it was paying you. So $15 times 180. Therefore, there's a cost, an opportunity cost of $2,700. Now, if you aspire to be a millionaire, then your time suddenly has to become much more valuable to you. If you want to make $1 million per year, and this would be a good number to write down, that's $84,000 per month. That needs to be your target. Now, let's say you're putting in maybe 8 hours a day for five days per week. That puts your time at somewhere around $350 per hour. That's where it needs to be. So we go 180 hours times $350, and we go from $2,700 to $63,000. So you can't tell me that there's no costs with SEO. Whatever free traffic strategy you do, really, there's going to be a cost, okay? And the cost is only going in one direction. It's going up. Why is that? It's because people flood into the industry wanting to make money. So competition for ad space increases. Some of you will know this because you might have read this in an email. I grew up on a wheat and sheep farm, a very small farm. Local town had about 30 people in it. And I went to the local primary school. At its population height, we got to 52 students. It was booming. Okay, that was considered booming. When I left, it was something like 10 students. Then it closed down a few years after. But anyway, in this area that I grew up in, there were lots and lots of small farmers. Okay, and so we had quite a few people in the district. You know, hundreds of people, which we considered quite a few. So there would be hundreds of farmers around this small country town. Anyway, as I grew up, I went from being 10 to 15 to 20 and so on. The population of this town went right down. And the reason was the smaller farmers were getting pushed out by the bigger farmers. Okay, there were actually 2 really big farmers in my area, in this area. Okay, and they just kept on buying more and more land. They were achieving economies of scale. Okay, they could afford to buy up everyone else's land, and they became more profitable, and the smaller farmers just could not compete. They didn't have enough land to actually be able to run a profitable business, which put a lot of strain on them, whereas the bigger farmers did, and now they started offering them pretty attractive prices for their land. So if you go back to that town now, which I occasionally do when I go and see my parents, there's maybe, well, the school's long gone, hasn't been there for 10 years. It's maybe 12 or 15 people in the local town. My point is that in any market, whenever there's a new market that opens up, lots of people enter that market wanting to make money, right? So you get a lot of small businesses. Over time, though, a few of those businesses get bigger and bigger because they're better at it, to be frank. Okay, they're better at turning those resources into money. And therefore, they can afford to spend more to get customers than everyone else. So, as the cost of acquiring a customer goes up, smaller businesses can't handle it. They can no longer afford to get customers. They are pushed out of the market. Traffic, prices go up, and they will continue to go up. Okay, they're rising. They will continue to. Now, if that sounds like really bad news, I'll tell you what the solution to that is in just a second. So don't let this get you too down. But I'm just telling you, this is the reality. So that's traffic. Now, conversions. When I say conversions, like I said before, it's about getting someone to your site, being able to persuade them to pull out that credit card and send you some money. Okay, and then feel good about it, so they come back and they spend more money with you, which is the secret to getting a lot more revenue. Okay? But before you even start getting traffic, you need to ask yourself the question, if I get a visitor to my site, how much on average would that visitor be worth to my business? This is what we call average visitor value. And the way we work this out is we take your gross sales and we divide that by your unique visitors. Let's say, for example, that you made $1,000 today. Okay, you made $1,000 today. And you had 1,000 visitors to your site. So in other words, 1,000 people clicked on ads that went to your website. So 1,000 people at one point during that day were staring at your website. 1,000 visitors. We go $1,000, our total revenue for that day, divided by 1,000 visitors, and that means that on average, each of those visitors was worth $1 to our business. Okay, $1 to our business. It's also what we call our earnings per click. It's the exact same thing. That means that theoretically, we can afford to spend up to $1 to get someone to our site. If we have to spend let's say we have to spend 50 cents to get someone to our site, we turn that into $1, then we're still making money, right? Now, a lot of people think that getting more traffic is the answer. They think, well, hey, to make more money online, I just need to find out a way to get more traffic. That's why they keep on buying more and more traffic courses. That's why traffic courses will always continue to sell. Everyone believes that getting more traffic is the answer, but it's not. Okay, you can have all the traffic in the world flowing to your site, but if you don't know how to convert it, if you can't convert that traffic into money, you're still getting zero sales. Think about, for example, there was this song on YouTube that became like a viral kind of sensation, and everyone loved to hate this song. Remember that song called It's Friday by Rebecca Black, the young teenage girl, and she made that song, and it got something like, I don't even remember what the total number was, but I think it was like a few 100 million hits. Might have even been more. Okay, someone might even know, but like literally hundreds of millions of people watched this video. Now, how much revenue? So you can look at that. That's one page on YouTube. So that's a site. Okay, one page. How much revenue was made from all of that traffic? I don't know what she made from it, but let's say that she sold some of her other songs. I doubt that she cleared $1 million from the whole thing. Yet hundreds of millions of visitors flowed and watched that page, that video. Which means that the average visitor value was pretty much nothing. It was like less than a few cents at the very most. Less, much less. So my point is, you could have hundreds of millions of visitors coming to your site, but if you can't convert them, what difference does it make? So when you always think to yourself that the answer is just to get more traffic, it's wrong. It's really not. The answer is to first focus on creating a better converting model. Okay, once you can convert better, then you can go and get more traffic. If you have no conversion, traffic is worthless. But here's the secret, right? And this is something that you want to write down, and you want to remember this for the rest of your life. If you can create a high converting model, a high converting website, a website that is able to convert traffic into money and do it very well, you will never have to worry about getting leads for yourself again. Did you know that if I was to stop marketing myself, to stop spending money on traffic, I would still have leads flowing to me, hundreds and hundreds of leads per day for a long time to come, without me really having to do much? Do you know why? It's because my affiliates, my partners, they continue to send traffic to me. And you see, the affiliates in this industry will always send their traffic to whoever is paying the highest price for that traffic. Okay? So those marketers that are really good at converting traffic, they tend to get the majority of the traffic. You have like the top 3% marketers who get over 90% of the traffic. The reason is they happen to have business models that are very good at converting that traffic. Jonathan, for example, Jonathan, 17 million in 7 years, something like that. David Wood, he's currently just making a killing, doing very well. Tens of millions in revenue, and possibly he's going to continue to scale up. Why? Because he has a business model that's pretty good at converting traffic into money. You've got Mike Dillard. A few years back, Mike was doing big numbers in this niche. So, more traffic equals more money, but there's a little catch. Only if your marketing and sales mechanism can extract more value from that traffic than it costs. Now, guys, I am gonna show you my business model in just a second, but I have to teach you these fundamentals first. Okay, so I have to spend a bit of time on this. So, just bear with me for a while. It's important you understand this. There's this little quote by Rich Sheffrin, which I really like. He said, you have to be able to take the traffic that your marketing machine pulls in and send it through a sales process that makes it more valuable to you than the value the market placed on it. If you don't have that capability yet, then you need to make some changes. I like that. The marketplace, they put a price on the traffic. So if you go to Facebook and you want to do some pay-per-click ads, Facebook tells you, hey, if you want to buy our clicks, they're going to cost you $1 each. That's what the market values them at. But if those clicks are worth $1.20 to you, then you're happy. You're smiling because now you can go and buy that traffic and you can turn it into money. You can make a tidy little profit. Okay? Now, again, guys, so just to work this out, take your gross sales, divide it by your visitors, and that tells you your average visitor value or your earnings per click. So just a quick example, right? Let's say you're selling, you've just done your first course, you create your first product, you decide to sell it for $100, okay? And you get one sale from 100 visitors, okay? You get 100 visitors, therefore it's $1 per visitor or $1 per click. That's what your site got. Another way of looking at it, you might have heard me say this before, but it's a great analogy. Pretend your website is this vending machine right here. It's, fairly beat up and, it looks pretty old. And let's say you come along and you put $2 in. It's a hot day, you want a nice cold can of Coke. You put in $2. The vending machine doesn't give you a Coke though, it gives you back some change. You reach down, you look at the change in your hand, and lo and behold, there's only $1.80 in your hand. So you're a little bit annoyed. You choose a cheaper drink, you put in the $1.80, and again, you don't get the drink. You get back change. But this time, you're only left with $1.60. Okay? And now you're getting really annoyed. But you put that in, you look for a cheaper drink, you find one for $1.60, you put in the money, and again, you get back some change. This vending machine is eating your money. It's eating 10% every time. How long would you stand there putting money into it? Probably not very long, and you couldn't for very long because soon you would be down to not much left at all. Okay, you would burn through your money pretty quickly. On the other hand, let's pretend that instead of that vending machine, you happen to find this one, and this one looked a little bit newer, a little bit nicer. You find that Coke, you put in $2. You don't get the drink, but you get some change, and this time you get $2.20. So you think, oh, great, 20 cents. Okay. You put in $2.20 this time. You choose like a bottle of Coke, slightly more expensive. Again, you don't get the drink. You get back change, but this time it's gone up to $2.40, and so on. Now this vending machine is giving you back 10% more money than you put in every single time. For every dollar you put into it, you get back $1.10. Now, if this happened, how long would you stand in front of this vending machine? You would stand there. I would stand there all day. I would stand there putting those coins in as fast as I could. I would have just discovered my own money printing press. That's really what it would be. Now, your website is either one of these two. Okay, so your goal, your whole role in running your own online business is to turn your your website into this vending machine on the right. Once you can do that, that is the secret to scaling very quickly. That's how I did it in my own business, okay? So the holy grail, what we're all trying to get to, is to have an average visitor value worth more than our average cost per click. This is fundamental stuff, but people don't truly get it, okay? They don't really fully appreciate this, and they go and spend all of their time getting distracted on things that don't really matter in comparison to this. So it's very important. Now, we are entering a very new phase in this industry, and unfortunately, over the next year, over the next 2 years, a lot of people are going to drop out, okay? And the reason is because they won't focus on this. They won't focus on creating a high converting sales funnel or having the right business model. Fortunately, unfortunately, it's not too easy to create. Okay, don't worry, I am going to give you a solution by the end of this webinar, but it is not too easy to create. Okay, it's quite a bit of work. And putting all the pieces together, as you'll soon see, there's a bit to it. Now, this is what just about everyone does in the very beginning when they get started. This is what I did for years, from maybe 2008 to early 2011. This is what I would do. I figured out how to build my own lead capture page so I could start getting email addresses. And then what I would do is I would go do an ad here and there. I'd go and spend a few $100s on an ad. I would get some leads, but I would lose money. So I couldn't do an ad for a couple more weeks. Then somehow I would find some money later on. Like when I got started, I was getting these government handouts here in Australia because, I was a student. I didn't really have a lot of money, so I was entitled to get what you might call the dole. Every 2 weeks, I'd get $435. So I would take some of that money and I would go and spend it on more ads. Okay, I'd lose on my money, but I was slowly building that list. I was slowly building my list, and I remember I got it to 100, 200, 500, 1,000 email addresses, and slowly it was building up. My whole strategy was, I'm going to build a list, and I'll figure out how to monetize it, as I go. What I would do is every so often I would sit down, write an email, blast it out to my entire list, and I would promote some different affiliate offer. Okay, and I might get the odd little sale here and there, but there really wasn't much more strategy than that. It was just, let me go and build this list and we'll monetize it later. And that's the wrong way of thinking about it, okay, because all of my focus was getting more leads, getting more traffic. It's the wrong focus. The focus should have been on creating a good sales funnel, a good business model that could convert that traffic and allow me to scale up very quickly. So that is what I want to show you right now. Okay, I want to show you how my business model actually looks, the reality of how it works. Really, the whole point of this is that you have to have a process that you take those leads through. If your process is to simply build a list and send out broadcast every few days, it's really not much of a process. That's you making it up as you go along. Okay, there's not really much strategy behind that. So you have to have a process that you take leads through to turn them into your buyers. Let me show you one. Okay, this is a little ad on Facebook. Okay, it's not even my ad. I just took a screenshot, but this is someone's ad on Facebook. Now, I could go and buy an ad on Facebook right now, and I could make it look something like this. Okay, so my potential traffic, they're on Facebook, they're checking out photos, what their friends are doing, and so on. They see this little ad out of the corner of their eye, and they click on it. They click on it, and then they go to my website. Okay, they go to a squeeze page or a lead capture page just like this one, and it makes them an offer. It says, here's the offer. If you want it, put in your email address and opt in. Okay, so now I've got a lead. Now what I do is I just take them right to my conversion page. A lot of people stuff around and they have like a 7-day email series, and only on day 8 do they ever make the first offer. Okay, I used to do it like that. I don't anymore, because I think that by the time you get to day 8, it's too long. I just take them right to the offer. I say, look, opt in. Now here's the offer. Now a lot of people think, well, shouldn't you deliver value up front? Yes, you should, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. Okay, just because you're making an offer and selling something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. You can do both. So some of my best sales presentations that I have, I am selling, but I'm also teaching at the same time. I'm also delivering value. So you can do both. I take them right to an offer, and I suggest you do as well. Now the offer is for this little ebook that I wrote called I Am Revolution. Now I imagine that quite a few of you have I Am Revolution. In fact, we've sold something like 9,000 copies or so. So quite a few people in our niche have read it, and you've probably gone through this process yourself. Now after that, we take them straight to an order page. Fairly simple, right? It's not that complex, at least on the surface. So we take them here, and they can put in their card details, and they can buy it. They can buy this little ebook, and we then deliver the product, a PDF ebook. That's it. Behind the scenes, though, this is really what's going on. Okay, this is my campaign for I Am Revolution. You can't really see this because it's kind of small, but these are all different lead capture pages for I Am Revolution, and I use different ones for different, my different main traffic sources. So for example, like direct mail might be one of these. Now the leads come in. They come in, we tag them so I know exactly where they came from and so on. And they can buy. Okay, this is where they're buying. Now once they buy, we're going to call them. This is our phone follow-up part here. Okay, again, I'll get into this in just a moment, so don't let this kind of scare you or anything like that. I'll explain how it all works in just a second. But my point is, the whole reason I'm showing you this is there's an actual process here. And some people, in fact most people in this niche, don't have this process. Again, the only strategy they have is to get leads onto their list and then send out broadcast messages. It's not really good enough. Okay, this is what you want. You want to have a process that you take them through. Then you can focus on just driving traffic, and you can let the system follow up and do the work. Okay, and you spend most of your time during the day optimizing this system, turning it into a more efficient selling machine. Now after they get through that, we're not done yet. In fact, we're only just beginning. Now they go into this 45-day email follow-up sequence that I wrote. It took a little while to write, but you can see all of these emails lined up, ready to go out. Day 1, day 2, day 3, so on. And then what we do is we have a whole series of automated webinars, sales webinars. Okay, so at the end of week 1, we have this one that sells the inner circle. Week 2, I licensed this course of Jonathan Buds. I paid Jonathan a licensing fee so I can now take that product and sell it. That's a little tip for you as well. If you don't have your own product and you'd like to sell a product and be able to keep most of the money, licensing is definitely the best way to do that. And so on. Okay, week 3, week 4, these are all different sales webinars selling different programs that I've created. So now after they buy any of these programs, you never sell something without making additional offers right after. Why? It's because the hardest part of this entire process is getting someone to that point where they make a conscious decision, I'm going to buy this, and they pull out the credit card and they begin typing in their digits. Okay, that's the hardest part. Now once you can get them to do that, once they've typed in their card details and they click add to cart, now they're ready. Okay, now they are ready and they are very open to investing additional money on other offers if they're going to give them value. So I sell a product, but then straight after I say, hey look, I've got this other program and here's why you should get it and here's how it will help you. Now they have a choice. They can get it or they can click on no thank you. Okay, it's completely up to them. It's completely within their control. But I have quite a few of those. And you would be very surprised how much extra revenue this produces for the business. And also, I believe it's better for the customer too. They invest more, they're more committed, they get better training, so it's win-win for both of us. Now, we're still not done after that though. Then what we do is we have phone follow-up. Okay, we have phone follow-up. So now that we have a customer, this is someone who's just bought from us for the very first time. They've trusted us enough to be willing to buy a product for the very first time. Hopefully, they get the product straight away. Hopefully, they've got some value from it. Okay, we work pretty hard to do that. Now we have the beginnings of a good relationship in place. We're going to then follow up on the phone, get to know them a little bit better, get to find out what their needs are, what they're looking for. Now, talking to someone one-on-one, you're going to get to know that person pretty well. Okay, so we have people on our phone team, and this is all they do all day. And depending on what that new customer needs, we're going to offer them additional programs. Now, these additional programs, the investment is usually much higher. My top one, as of right now, is about $15,000. Okay, so it really depends on what they want. But you can imagine, let's say that you were selling a $15,000 program, or you had a phone team selling it for you. You wouldn't need too many of those per month to start having a $50,000 or $100,000 a month, would you? That's another little secret. Getting to the big numbers, really, it's a big part of it is finding out how to increase the transaction size, going from selling $10 ebooks to now selling multi-$1,000 programs, and delivering programs that are actually worth those kind of price points. You know, it's all good to be able to sell a $2,000 program, but if you don't deliver $2,000 of value, they're not going to come back for more. They're definitely not going to come back for more and invest in your $10,000 program, and so on. So it's got to be good. But with what I just showed you, right, this entire sales funnel process, it changes everything. And myself and my MOBE license rights partners, MOBE stands for My Online Business Empire. My license rights partners, they're people who essentially licensed that sales funnel I just showed you. What we can do is we can afford to pay more than pretty much 99.9% of other people in this industry for the same traffic. Okay? Why? It's because it's worth a lot more to us. Our business model is much more efficient at extracting money out of that traffic than just about any other business model in this niche. Okay, which gives us a huge advantage. We're like those two big farmers where I grew up. Okay, they continue to get bigger and bigger. Why? It's because they're able to generate more revenue out of the land, out of the resources, than any of the other smaller farmers. So those other smaller farmers get pushed out. They have to sell up and go to the city and do something else. It's exactly the same with this industry. Okay? Our average customer value is about 20 times higher than just about anyone else in this niche too. So we can afford to spend a lot more to get those customers. Now, I'm going to give you another tip. If you want to do really well in this niche, don't focus so much on getting thousands and thousands of customers. Focus on getting customers and then going deep with those customers. When I say going deep, finding ways to help them at much higher levels in return for much higher prices. Okay, so in other words, let's say you've got two options. You can sell, show you, actually go back. You can sell a $10 ebook, and you can sell 1,000 copies of that $10 ebook and make yourself $10,000. You've got to go and find 1,000 customers. Now, let's say that you were instead to put together your own $10,000 coaching program, and I'm not sure what you would do for that. Some ideas might be you offer a lot of one-on-one time with someone. You really help them to get set up and started in their business. And it was quite a big investment of your time, and you delivered a ton of value, so you put a price tag of $10,000 in that program. Now you only have to find one customer. So what do you think is easier? Finding 1,000 customers to buy your $10 ebook, or finding one customer to give you $10,000? it is way easier to find that one customer. Okay, so that's what I mean by going deep. You find a customer, and then you find additional ways to keep on helping them, and they keep on spending more with you. Okay, and that becomes your focus rather than just going and getting a whole bunch of customers who don't really ever spend that much with you. Now, if you're wondering, I promised at the start I would show you what does $1 million business actually look like. This is it. These are real numbers. You have your front-end product. Okay, so in this case, let's say that you're selling a product for 47 bucks. This could be an ebook that you wrote, something like that. And you get yourself 60 customers. So from that, this is per month. You've just made a little bit under $3,000, which is nothing to get too excited about. I mean, some of you might think, oh, okay, that's not too bad actually, but it's, you know, once you get to that level, it's not really that exciting. But then what you do is you add in an upsell. After they buy that $47 ebook, you now offer them a video coaching program that you created, okay, or that you licensed from someone else. And that's $300. Now let's say that 1/4 of those original 60 customers say, yes please, I want that $300 course. Now you've made yourself an additional $4.5 grand. Okay, so now we've gone up to a little bit over $7,000 per month, which is a little bit over 80, 85 or 90,000 or something per year. Okay, we're off to a good start. But then what we do is we add in some continuity. Okay, we have a continuity offer. For example, I have my inner circle. My inner circle is $97 per month, and I have hundreds of people in the inner circle. Okay, so you can imagine that it soon adds up. Let's say that you create something similar. So for $97 per month, you got 30 customers, you now have $2,910 coming in per month. Okay, so there's a nice little income stream. But then you create your high ticket offer, $2,400. Okay, you either sell this upfront or you sell it on a payment plan, you know, like 4 payments of $597, which most people, you know, it's a good alternative to doing upfront. You get 11 customers. That's just added $26,400. You then cross-sell them into another high-ticket program that complements, okay, that original one. So in other words, you've now got these 2 as well. Okay, and then finally you create your really high ticket one-on-one coaching program. This is quite a bit of time invested on your part, and you only take on 4 customers per month, okay, because you don't have time for more, and that's $6,000. So now you've got an additional $24,000 coming from that. Notice that these 4 customers came from the original 60 customers. Okay, so this would actually bring you to a little bit over $87,000 per month. Now remember that number I told you before. If you want to get to $1 million per year in your business, it's about $84,000 per month. So with this, from these 60 customers, you've now created a $1 million business more. Okay, that would do over $1 million in revenue. Now you can build all of this out in, you know, personally it took me a couple of years to build it out, which might sound like a very you know, attractive proposition, but if you want to create it all yourself and do it the right way, you're looking at a fairly significant time investment. Those people in the MOBE License Rights program who just license all of my products and sales funnels, this is essentially what I'm offering them. This is what they get. Okay, but this is really how it looks. This is how you build $1 million business. The numbers kind of break down to look like this. Now you'll notice that in that slide, most of the money was being made on the back end, right, with those high ticket programs, those $2,400 programs and the $6,000 ones. As I said before, you know, what's easier? If you want to make $100,000, what's easier? Finding 10,000 customers to buy your $10 ebook, or finding 5 really, really good customers who spend $20,000 with you? Trust me, it's easier to get the higher ticket programs than it is to get those low ticket transactions in significant volume. Okay, now you can either create your own high ticket program. Like I said before, you could do a one-on-one coaching program. You might have some kind of business opportunity or top tier business opportunity on the back end. So for example, I have people in my program who become titanium mastermind members and platinum mastermind members. Essentially, those programs allow you to make $3,000 and $5,000 commissions on the back end. Okay, that's really what they do. You could license someone else's high ticket back end program. My point is, if you right now, if you don't have a high ticket program that you offer to people on your list, then you really need one. You need one. It changes everything. Now, I want to show you something else. Right now, I've got something like, this is actually a little bit old. It's now like 120,000 people on my list. Now, they're not all active, okay? They're not all active. Because over time, people unsubscribe, change email addresses, and so on. They tune out. It happens. But so far in this niche, as of recording this right now, doing this right now, we've done about 2.5 million in revenue. And most of that went to our partners. So it's not like I'm keeping it all, which I'm perfectly happy with anyway. I like seeing my partners do well. So most of that goes to our partners. So these days, our daily target is no less than about $15,000 bare minimum. And what we aim for per email subscriber on our list is around $2 to $3 per month. Ideally, I want about $3 per month minimum if I can. So in other words, let's say you have 100 people on your list. A good goal would be to get to $300 per month. And if you're marketing to them, okay, if you're consistently marketing to them well, that shouldn't be much of a challenge, okay, if you have the right business model. So if you have 1,000 people on your list, $3,000 per month is where you would want to really get to. Now, just imagine this. Let's say that you focus on getting 500 leads per month. 500 leads to some might sound like a big number. It's really not. Okay, let's take 500 and divide that by 30 days. It's 17 leads per day. Okay, 17 leads per day. It's not a whole lot. 17 leads per day. Let's say you do that for an entire year. By the end of that year, you should expect to be making from that list, if you have the right business model, up to $18,000 per month. Okay, up to $18,000 per month. And if you can grow that list faster and you have the right business model, you can be doing more. But it's not just about the numbers. It's actually more about the relationship. So I've got a friend who you might know, you might have heard of him, called Jonathan Budd. And Jonathan is actually in my MOBE license rights program. So he's actually licensed this sales funnel or that sales funnel that I showed you before. And occasionally, from time to time, if you're on his list, you'll see he will send out an email promoting one of my offers. Okay, that's because he's a licensee. Now, in total, he hasn't done that a real lot because he does really tend to focus more on just promoting his own stuff. But in total, he sent, this is an actual screenshot of his back office, and I asked him if he didn't mind if I showed this. This is actually a little bit old too. It's not the most recent one. The most recent one's a bit more. But his total clicks, 3,686. So in other words, he sent out an email to his list, which is, it's something like over 100,000 active subscribers, so it's a fairly decent list. And let's say that he gets, a couple thousand clicks. A lot of people on the list don't always open the email. So some do, and some of those then click, and they go to the offer that he was promoting. So just under 4,000 clicks. From that though, based on this, he's got a little bit over 76,000 in total commissions. It's actually gone up to over 95 more recently. But when I took this screenshot, that's where it was. Now, if we take total revenue, this is in his pocket too. This isn't gross sales. This is actually commissions in his pocket. If we take that gross sales and we divide that by unique clicks or unique visitors, it's a little bit over $20 per click, which is nice. Okay, that's a good number to have. Definitely not typical. My point of showing you this, though, is that he's got a very good relationship with his list. So if you have a list, you got to focus on building that relationship. You do that by offering them value, by being a personality, being genuine, being authentic, because that's what people want to see. Now, I told you that I was going to show you where maybe half of our revenue comes from. The secret channel, and this is it. Phone follow-up. Now, I know that as soon as I say phone follow-up, a whole bunch of people just tuned out, and they thought, oh, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be, picking up the phone and cold calling all day or anything like that. But I'm telling you, if you do phone follow-up right, it's going to change the entire economics of your business. Now, you've got two choices. You can either start making those calls yourself, start calling your own leads and offering them your programs or someone else's programs, or you can find a phone team to do it all for you. And I will show you a phone team that you can hire towards the end of this. There are phone teams out there, just know, who will gladly call back your leads and they will split the commissions with you. And you don't ever have to pick up the phone. Now, if you want to do it yourself, here's how you do it. You start making those calls and you get good. Okay, you get good at selling. You then transcribe those calls, start developing scripts. You can record those and let the listener know that you're recording. And at some point, you're going to catch yourself at concert pitch. You're going to be doing really good conversations on the phone. And you're recording those. And then what you do is you can bring someone else onto your team and you can say, here's your training. You give them the recordings, you give them the script. You say, go and study this, and then I want you to start making calls. And you simply pay them a share of what they bring in. Okay, usually it's going to be anywhere from 10 to maybe 30% of the gross amount. So if they bring in a $10,000 order, you might pay them $2,000, something like that. Some people, I don't know what you think about that number. Some people might think it's high, but it's not, because without them in that role, you wouldn't have had the extra $10,000 in revenue coming in the first place. I'll tell you another secret. The way that you become very wealthy in this niche is you find a way of helping a lot of other people make money, and you then align their interests with yours. Okay, so you can create your own army of people who go out there into the marketplace, and they're helping you grow your company in the way. The only really motivation for them doing that long term is because you're going to give them a percentage of the action. Okay, you're going to share your earnings with them. You don't get super wealthy by just trying to keep everything for yourself. At some point, if you want to take things to the next level, you've got to find ways to help a lot of other people get wealthy. Look at, for example, Facebook or Google, companies like that become multi-billion-dollar companies. The founders, okay, so Mark Zuckerberg, what percentage of Facebook does he actually own now? It's not a huge percentage. Okay, it's definitely, I believe it's well below like 20%, much lower, I believe. I don't know the exact number, but it's not a huge amount. Most of it he gave away to other people, and he had to do that, okay, because he had to attract the right talent. Because you can't manage a company that size all by yourself. And it's the same as in this niche. If you want to really scale up quickly and build a big company, you've got to find ways to bring other people onto your team and motivate them to want to help you achieve your goals. So this is what our phone follow-up looks like. Here's a little screenshot of the process that we take people through. You can see here it says first call attempted, second call attempted, so on. We'll call them back 5 times without them answering before we will give up on the lead. When I say give up, we don't completely give up. We put it in like a little box to the side, okay? So this is what we do. This is just part of it. But my whole point is, phone follow-up, once I implemented this really changed everything. It really did. So that's phone follow-up. I told you I was going to give you 4 leverage points that moved everything to a multiple 7-figure, that should say, a multiple 7-figure bracket. Phone follow-up was the first one. Second one was creating multiple products. These days I have something like 27 different products. Now, you've got two options. You can either go and create all of those products yourself, or you can possibly license someone else's. Okay? So if you don't like the idea of creating lots of products, license someone else's. I myself, I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy creating products and creating. But if you don't, license someone else's. High ticket programs. Okay, we have programs, like I said before, that go right up to $15,000. Let me tell you something. This morning, right now, it's just gone 11 a.m. here in Australia. So for those of you in the States, I know it's just gone maybe 10 or 10:20 p.m. or something like that. But I got into the office this morning, and I was getting ready for this call, so I got in maybe an hour before. And I go into my Infusionsoft account, which is what I use for my shopping cart. And I had a very pleasant surprise. Normally, I get into the office and I expect our revenue to go up by a certain amount, because I know that while I'm sleeping, most of my phone team, they're in the US, so they're making sales, and plus we've got our online marketing too. So I expect to see some revenue every morning when I get in, and I have a number in mind. Okay, this morning though I got in and it was actually about 5 times what it usually is, and it was pretty exciting. And I saw it and I thought, that can't be right. Someone's entered in an order incorrectly or something like that, because that number's way too big. So I went and actually checked my orders and to see what they were, and I saw that. I got the number in front of me before this call. Where is it? Right here. We had suddenly overnight had $42,000 extra, or $42,000 that I wasn't really expecting come in. If it had been $10,000 or $15,000, I would have thought, okay, great, we had a few sales, nothing too special, but it was more. It was $42,000, and I thought, okay, where did all of that come from? And I went into it, and this is what it was. We had 3 $9,000 programs sold. Okay, 3 $9,000 programs. So 3 transactions there, and then we had 1 $15,000 transaction. So you go 9 times 3, okay, whatever that is, 27 or something like that. 27, right? $27,000 plus a $15,000 transaction. Now, the reason why I tell you that is because if you ever hear numbers like that, $42,000 in a day, and guys, I'll be honest with you, that's not typical. That's not like an average day. So that was a nice little surprise. But if you've ever wondered how is that possible, a lot of it has to do with transaction size. You start finding ways to offer a ton of value to people that they're willing to invest a more significant amount of money into. And that's how it's possible to start having days where you have more revenue come in than a lot of people make in their jobs in the entire year. That's how it's possible. So the whole point of telling you that is, right now, if you don't have a high ticket program on the back end, one that you can feel comfortable about promoting, one that you know is good, that they're investing significant money into, but they know it's good. If you don't have that, you really need it. Okay, you either need to create it yourself or license someone else's, or do a partnership with someone else. But either way, you need it. Very quick little story. I remember when I was maybe 23 or something like that. I went home to my parents' farm. I caught the bus home. For some reason, my car, I think, was getting fixed or something like that. And at this time, my online business was doing pretty terrible. Okay, I wasn't really making much at all. But I'm sitting there in the car with my mother. We are waiting for the bus to take me back to the city. Okay, and we live like 5 hours out from the city. And she's very concerned about this whole internet marketing thing, because I've been doing it for a couple of years and I don't really have much to show for it. But I said, don't worry, okay, because soon I'm going to be making $50,000 a month. I wasn't saying it in like an arrogant way. I had this knowing in the back of my mind. And at that point in time, I was making maybe less than $1,000 per month. But I just knew that I was going to be doing it. And the reason why I knew, or I thought I knew, because at that point I had just created my first product for $300. Actually, it was 2 payments of 97, so it was more like $200. I'd created my first $200 product. And my idea was that if I could sell 15 of those per day, 15 a day at $200 each, that would be, what is that? 15 times 200. Yeah, a little bit over. It'd be like 3,000 a day or something like that. In fact, I'm revealing my my poor math here. Let me just type it in. Yeah, $3,000 per day. All right, not 15. Let's reduce that down to something more like 9. In my mind, I thought if I could just sell 9 of those $200 products per day, that would be $1,800 per day. Times 30 days in the month would be a little bit over $50,000 per month. So in my mind, I thought that's how I'm going to do it. I'm simply going to find 9 customers per day. Now, with the perspective of having built a business that does much more than that, I can tell you the numbers don't look like that. Like I said, it's mostly from those high-ticket programs. So instead of 9 $200 products per day, it was more like maybe 2 or 3, and then the occasional $2,000 or $5,000 coaching program thrown in there. The fourth one, oh, stuff that up, let me go back. The fourth one I want to show you is having your own partner program. I don't know what's going on with my slides, it disappeared. Having your own partner program, once I implemented that and I allowed other people to promote my business model for a percentage of the profits, that changed everything. So if you do have your own high converting sales funnels, you may consider opening up a partner program, an affiliate program. Okay? So, guys, I've shown you a few things tonight, and really I want to go over your main options here for taking this further and actually turning what I've just shown you into results, into money. You've got a few options. Option number 1, you can go and create your own sales funnels like I've done. But to be honest, and you probably worked this out just by seeing what I showed you, there's quite a bit involved. You've got to know how to write sales copy or hire someone who does. Okay, you want to go and get a good copywriter, you're looking at a few $1,000s per sales letter. You've got to create your own information products, which take time. I've got 27 products or so, each one, you know, a lot of them, they're like 8-hour video courses. You can imagine how much time goes into planning them and then recording them, editing, and so on. You can go and do all the sales funnels yourself, the tech side, get your own merchant accounts, integrate shopping carts, blah blah blah. You know, you deal with all of this stuff, and it's worthwhile doing it, but it's also quite a bit of work. Okay, and in my case, it did take me years and years of my life working pretty much 7 days a week into this and putting a lot of effort into doing it. Most people who try and do this, which is just about everyone's really trying to do everything themselves, they just end up struggling because there's so much information coming at you and there's so much to do that it's hard. It's hard. So that's option 1. It's not really the option I would recommend with the experience I have now, the perspective. Option number 2 is a lot easier. You find someone else who's done all of that stuff. Okay, they've done it all. They've created their own products and sales funnels. And then what you do, all you do is you send traffic to them. The big problem with that, though, is that at best, you're getting maybe 50% commissions. They're giving you only maybe half of what you sell. Now, let me explain why that's so critical. Let's say that you decide to spend $200 per week on traffic, on getting leads, and you find someone's product that they're selling for $300 that you can promote as an affiliate. So you drive your $200 of traffic to that offer, and you get yourself one sale that week. Now you have $300 in gross revenue come in. Now how much did you actually get to keep though? Well, you got 50%, so you made $150, but you invested $200 in traffic. So even though you got a sale, you actually ended up losing $50. You put in $200 into the vending machine and you got back $150. Not a very good vending machine. It's like putting in $1, getting back 75 cents. Okay, you can't do that for very long. And that's the big problem with affiliate marketing. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just that the margins they're just not big enough to make it profitable these days. Okay, let's say that you're making 10 or 20% profit margins. Well, you're already losing 50% here. So there goes your profit margin. Now you're in the red. So those are your two main options that most people go through, and you might have been listening to them, and if I've kind of painted this picture of doom and gloom, that wasn't my intention, but that's kind of how it is really for most people. Those are their two options, and both of them have their pros and their cons. Okay, they definitely have their cons. That's really where it is. But there is a possible third option, which was really the whole point of walking you through this, and that I wanted to show you. So let me just tell you about this, and you can decide whether this is for you or not. About 14 months ago, things had just started to take off, but in the back of my mind, I knew that my business was kind of stuck. Even though I'd started getting results, I couldn't see how we could get past 10,000 a month. So I was glad to be making 10,000 a month, but I thought, well, I don't want to have limits. I want to see how far I can take this. And I just couldn't work out how to do it. Now, at the time, I had heard about this idea of licensing because I'd actually done it. I had licensed Jonathan Budd's product, Get Traffic 3.0, so I paid him something like $5,000. Okay, I paid him something like $5,000. And I could only really do this because I knew him at that point in time. I'd emailed him and I said, Jonathan, that product of yours, which you sold over $1 million worth of quite recently, can I take that and can I sell that and keep most of the money? Can I license it? First he said no. And I said, well, look, I'm happy to pay you because I know what you put into it. And we agreed on something like $5,000. So I was familiar with this idea of licensing. Now at this point in time, I'd created my first product or so, my first couple of products. So I thought, well, look, I figured out how to get this to 10,000 a month. Surely there's other people out there who aren't too open to the idea of going and doing all the work, creating their own products and sales funnels themselves. So maybe they would be open to licensing mine. So what I did is I went to my very top affiliate partners at the time. My affiliates, they were getting, at best 50% on just some of my products, so not much. But I went to the top ones and I said, look, how would you feel about licensing my products? And by licensing, I mean I'll pay you pretty much all the money that you make when you sell these programs. I'll keep 10% though to pay for merchant fees, customer support, fulfillment, all of that stuff that you probably don't want to do anyway. And all you have to do is just send leads and I'll convert it for you. Okay, I'll do all of that and you keep 90% of what you sell. So in other words, every dollar in revenue you put 90 cents back in your pocket. And they sounded pretty interested, so we said, okay, let's try it. And Brian, this guy, Brian Price, he was one of the first. Brian's actually now on my team as well. He works with me. But back when this happened, he was actually a client. So Brian was one of the first people to license this, and he did this in September 2011, actually a little bit after. And he used to be an engineer. He got into this whole online marketing thing, and in his first 11 days, he was doing Facebook pay-per-click. He made a bit over $1,000 in commissions, which is nothing to get too excited about, but it's not too bad. Okay, it's not too bad for someone who's pretty much brand new to the industry. And his goal was to get to $100,000 per year. That says per month. That's actually wrong. That should be per year. And he's actually surpassed that right now. So he quit his job a little while back, and now this is what he does. So Brian had pretty good results with it. Chris, you've probably seen this video. This is probably my favorite video case study of all time. But Chris, in this video, he's talking about it's like 4 a.m. and he hasn't slept in 2 days, and he's excited because he had actually just made two $1,200 commissions in the span of about 4 hours, and they were actually to the same customer. So that was on day 5 of being in my license rights program. You know, $2,400. Again, it's not a huge amount, but still, it's not too bad. Andrea Good said in the video, she said, in the last 45 days, I made over $15,000, and probably one of the most exciting parts of the whole process was the upsell effectiveness. So Andrea got involved, and what really attracted her to it was really the 90% commissions on the front end on those programs, you know, that we were selling for $200, $300. She wasn't really expecting, though, that our phone team in the follow-up would be making bigger sales that paid her $1,000 per commission and so on. So she's done pretty well out of it. You know, $15,000 in 45 days isn't too bad at all. And it's win-win too. This is the actual stats. So in this case, this was taken around the time she did that video. 309 leads, 29 orders, a little bit under $40,000 in sales. So it's win-win. This is what I want you to get. When I introduced this license idea, not only were the people in it making good money, but I was also doing okay out of it too, because on the back end, I got a good portion of that too. So now it was win-win. It was like a true partnership. Raina, I made my first $500 sale pretty quickly. I'm really amazed. She had actually been trying to make money for years and years and had never made a commission before. Now she's on a regular basis, she's making sales. And I'll be honest with you, she's not like making $50,000 a month or anything like that, but she is making regular sales for the first time in years. Jazz, he became a licensee in March 2012, sends out an email to his list, and I tell him, look, Jazz, you just made, this is the email exchange, $2,158, so you've sent 246 clicks, 95 leads. That means that every click has just paid you $8.77, and every lead $23, and he was pretty happy with that. Scott actually is from Perth, Australia, and just by pure chance, somehow he got on my list and partnered with me in the license rights program, and he lives like 5 minutes away, I think. In his first 27 days in the license rights program, 2,910 commissions, and his marketing expense to do that was $55 on a solo ad, a few Facebook events, and some ads on his own blog. David Jukes. Occasionally what I like to do, especially when I have a new partner, when they get their first commission on the back end, like let's say our phone team makes them a sale and makes them $1,200, like in this case, I like to go and celebrate that. So sometimes I'll go and post that on their wall, on their Facebook wall. I do that to let them know it's a nice surprise for them to wake up to. And also, you know, it's good because people, their friends, their family, they see it, and you know, they see that, hey, this whole online business thing is working. So David just made $1,200, and he wakes up and he says, oh, that's great, that's nice. And then I said, another $950 commission just made for you. So not too bad, you know, a little bit over $2,000. I want to show you guys something else too. Very recently, what I started doing is I started to think, well, how do I get people really excited about doing really well in the MOBE license rights program? And I thought, well, what if I were to pay them prices, pay them big cash prices for the top partners, and be more generous than just about anyone else in the industry. So I started doing that, and I want to go and show you some of the things that we've been doing. So, for example, here's a contest right here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it. So recently, what I did is I held a contest, and I said, look, whoever gets the most sales in this contest, and this was like a 3-week contest, I'm going to give you $20,000. okay, $20,000, and I'll wire it to your account. So this was fairly recent, and we do these every single month. First price is usually a big cash amount, somewhere around that kind of level. And this guy here actually won it. Nico, okay, Nico, from the Philippines. He got 49 sales. Each sale was $1,000 per sale. So he made $49,000 from that, plus the $20,000 first price, so $69,000 in 3 weeks. And it's funny, I asked him to do a video testimonial after that, and in the video he said the average earnings here in the Philippines, I can't remember the exact number, but he told me that basically this $69,000 that he had made was the equivalent of what the average person in the Philippines will make in their working career in a 5-year period. So I thought that was pretty cool. He makes in 3 weeks what people around him might take 5 years to make. So it's pretty good. So he got the $20,000, which I wired to him. John Chow, he was shortly behind. He got 41 sales to $41,000. Again, this is in a 3-week period. See, he looks pretty excited there. And he actually won a 5-day, 6-night holiday to Fiji, which he'll be going to with his wife and his daughter in the next few months, which is pretty cool. Okay, so in other words, guys, if you do well, if you get good results, you know, you're going to win some pretty cool stuff. Trips to Fiji, cash prices. Ken got started online about 8 months ago, and in this 3-week period, he got 36 sales. So $36,000, and this, you know, sometimes people say, well, I'm a newbie. You know, how do I do this because I'm new? What chance do I have? Well, Ken, he's fairly new. 8 months online. It's not a whole lot of time, and he's having, you know, $36,000 in 3 weeks. So he got like a $3,500 watch. Mitch, laptop, Robbie, and so on. Jonathan, not really new, but